Hi, welcome to the 1310 Union Local Podcast. I'm your host, Zac Shutler, and the goal for this podcast is to have one guest, ask them 3 questions, and wrap up the interview in 10 minutes, with the end game being showing our community members what some of our former students are doing, how successful they've become, and to share some of their tips with our current students and see how they can grow and be the best versions of themselves. Today, we're fortunate to have our first guest, and he's a 2023 graduate of Union Local High School, Mr. Bryley Jennewein. Hi, Bryley.
Hello, thank you for having me on.
Welcome, man. Welcome. Excited to have you. I was your principal, I was your superintendent, and it's always awesome to have our former students back and to hear about the exciting things that they're doing. Mm-hmm. You're right now at Marietta College?
Yes, I will be a junior at Marietta College, majoring in education.
All right, so you're going to give back to the profession.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask Bryley 3 questions, and we'll start with question number 1. So thinking back on your time at Union Local, is there a specific teacher, class, or activity that had a significant impact on your journey?
Yeah, so there is one teacher in mind that comes up. Melissa Stedman, she's a 6th grade social studies teacher in a middle school here. So that transition from elementary to middle school can be hard on most students, and myself included. But if you surround yourself with teachers, educators, and people that really, care for their students, they make that transition so much easier. And Melissa Stedman, she does that to a T and beyond. She takes control of a lot of the student-led organizations, so like student council, she's in charge of that. She does a really good job with that. But for me, she was, not only she was a teacher to me, but she was a leader that I could look up to. Mm-hmm. She really pushed me to give my best potential. And I ended up joining student council because of it. And she really helped me, guide me, and put me on the right path, and kind of ended up where I am today.
And I was a high school teacher at the time, and I distinctly remember her reaching out to me and say, hey, keep Bryley Jennewein on your radar. He's going to be a great asset, whether it be in the superintendent council or the student council or the principal council. And I think what she did is she modeled what it was to give back and do things for other people. And when you came in, I think one of your goals was, how can my actions make the school a better place?
Yeah.
And you followed through with that, and you continue to follow through with that, coming back as a substitute, and maybe one day as a teacher like Mrs. Stedman yourself.
Yeah.
I'm sure she'll be super excited to hear this and hear you talk about what an impact she had on you. Let's dive into question 2. It is August 11th when we're recording this, and it's the time of year where I think a lot of students start getting anxious about coming back to school. We want to make school the best experience for them, and I think we can always grow and improve in that area. But a common thing that we tend to hear is, I don't learn anything that's going to matter in the real world. What I learn, I don't get to apply in my job or in my sport or in my relationships. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's always true. I think there's things in hindsight that we learned in school that do make a big impact. Mm-hmm. What's true for you? What did you learn in school that has a big impact on you now?
So I'm not going to take this as like a content specific. So like I'm not going to say I learned this in history and I use this every day. But no, I want to take this to a standpoint of like making connections with your peers, making connections with your educators. That's all the most important to help guide you. You learn from it. You learn from them just as much as you learn from others. Mm-hmm. This lessons of connections, making connections, because you need good connections to get somewhere in life. And these connections really helped me and guided me, and to the point where I'm at today. I want to help students in my future classrooms make those same connections that I had it back in middle school.
I think everything that you do in life, and I think the sooner you learn this, the better, is you're either establishing trust or destroying trust. Mm-hmm. Are you building those connections where people know that they can count on you? And you don't know where those paths are going to lead. Mm-hmm. And it's much easier to keep trust and build trust than it is to break trust and then have to rebuild it. And from my vantage point, that's what you were great at. Shaking hands with people, smiling, trying to make situations better for everyone. It didn't matter if they were the most popular student in school or just a student in school. You cared about their well-being, and your goal was to make the school a better place for them. And I like when you talk about connections, you're not talking about your social media connections.
No, absolutely not. No, social media connections, they're not the same. But it's the face-to-face interactions that you have with your teachers and your fellow peers that I think are the utmost important.
And they carry through.
Yes.
You never know who you're going to meet that can make a difference for you, but you need to go into each of those meetings really believing you can make a difference for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so much about what you can take, it's about what you can give. And if you give a lot tends to come back your way. Have you found that to be true?
Yes, that is absolutely true. Staying away, those connections that you make, especially off the phones and off social media, they mean so much more than just on a screen.
I think one of the cool connections you made when you were at Union Local was becoming the team manager for Coach Delman, the basketball team. I thought you did so much for that team that when I'm sitting behind the bench watching our Jets play, you were as much involved with the team and their success as anyone. And do you attribute that to making connections with the coaches and the players?
Yes, absolutely. So a lot of those players were my friends. So, of course, I already knew them. But getting to know them on a playing surface such as a basketball court is, it's a whole different ballgame. But, but those connections with the coaches, the players, support staff, other coaches from other schools and other players, those are all very important and very different in different situations.
And you parlayed that success and those connections as a team manager for a high school team to doing something similar at Marietta College?
Yeah, so I originally wasn't going to go into managing at Marietta College just because I wasn't sure how the adjustment to college was going to be. But the more I got to thinking about it and the more I got to talking to coaches, I ended up getting a meeting scheduled with our head coach at the time and ended up coming on. And I'm getting ready to go into my third season with our men's team at the college.
Awesome. And my final question for you is, getting to know you as your principal and then superintendent, I think I had an idea of what you wanted to do, but how did what you wanted to do in high school differ from what you're doing now, and how is it the same? And kind of talk us through that progression of, hey, here's what I want to do when I'm, say, a junior in high school compared to what I'm doing now as a junior in college.
So back in middle school, like I said, Mrs. Stedman was she was in charge of student council, and she kind of helped me get involved with that and stuff. I kind of knew at that point I really wanted to help people in some way. My thought process was maybe getting into politics, getting into civic service, finding a way to best help people around us in our society, and making sure we have a society to live in and, in the future.
Where everybody can succeed.
Exactly. So when I got through high school and got to college, I had an epiphany. I really wanted to somehow give back to, home, especially in the middle school. So I switched gears and I became an education major.
Awesome.
So focusing on grades 4 through 9, which I think are the most critical parts in a child's life. From the transition from elementary school and then that transition right before high school, I think is the most critical point in a student's educational journey. But in our education department, Marietta, we really strive to find the best in ourselves so we can give the best to our students. So when hopefully one day I come back here and teach, I want to give my students the best possible education in order for them to see into the future and succeed.
Well, you're a great role model for not just Union Local students in our community, but I think you're a great role model for people everywhere. And there have been teachers that have gone on to be politicians, and we need good, honest, trustworthy people in politics too. So that might still be your journey.
that is also a goal. But I believe it really starts with our younger generation, making sure we have a really good society in the future.
Well, what I've always respected about you, Bryley, is that you're someone that wants to make situations better for others. And I think that's very commendable. And I think whether you end up teaching here or teaching wherever or going into politics, you're going to continue to do that. And I look forward to watching your journey continue. So I want to thank you for being our first guest on our 1-3-10 podcast. One guest, 3 questions, 10 minutes or under. If you know a Union Local graduate that would be a great guest for us to share their successes, please reach out. My email is zshutler@ulschools.com. And always remember, Jets think, Jets care, Jets aim high. Go Jets. Nice job, Bryley.